Hey Roy, how's it going?
Hey, good.
Great. I got your dream. It's another cat dream, the
Yeah,
gray
yeah.
cat.
The gray cat appears in a lot of different people's
Yeah.
dreams. Yeah,
Well, yeah. It's kind of it's not black, it's not white. It's kind of the middle cat, the cat that participates both inner outer. So it's kind of a Hermes cat,
the
it's
gray rat too,
the gray
that
rat.
Sarah had.
Yeah, it's a black rat. She puts white powder in it, it turns gray. Again, the
Gray rat. What? No, it was a black rat. I thought it was a gray
it was a
rat and
black.
turned white and
Oh
turned
yeah.
white,
Okay.
gray and it turned white.
Yes,
'Cause
you're
I
correct.
was surprised it wasn't black, but I can't argue with the dream.
Yeah,
It was
you
gray and it
are
turned white.
correct. It was
Yes.
yeah. But I've been really coming I mean, like for instance, I know Carl wants to discuss his dream when he gets in here. But this middle thing, we've been seeing it quite a bit,
Yeah.
something in the middle, so I think gray is is a is telling us that it participates in both realms, you know.
Right.
So it is a sign of um, a participant in both worlds. So it's really the one that is individuated. Well, and individuated means not divided, so it's whole, So yeah, the gray, if we were black and white, we would be, possess both sides.
Yeah,
Hi, Charles.
you
Yeah.
mix white with black, you get gray.
Yes. Yes. And so it is a mixture. That's what you just said, is that if you mix black and gray together. Well, why don't I put it in there until we're waiting and we can just get started on it. Let me see if I can get this. Darn it. I'm going to get my mouse working here. Okay, let's see. Here we go. How's Charles doing?
I'm doing all right.
Okay, good. Yeah. Oh, here comes Gary. All right. Let's get started on that. I mean, we might want to just read it. I'll put it in the chat, but why don't you just read it, Roy?
Okay.
Mhm. Hi, Gary.
Okay. Let's
We're,
see.
until the others get, we're going to just start Roy's got a really interesting dream here. Short but interesting, and I think it'll be fun to work with.
Oh,
I'm going
could
to
you
put
put
it.
it in the chat?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat here. Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that Roy has so many animal dreams is has to do with I think some when animals are near, the instincts are near. So and the fact that it's a cat is a feminine animal. Well, go ahead, Roy.
Okay.
I have to find my pen, but
Yeah. I was a little orphan boy. I was in a tavern where I was welcome. The doors were open to the street. It was late afternoon. There were no customers there. They let me practice a trumpet there. I had a gray cat with me. I was practicing trumpet. Someone called the justice of peace on my trumpet playing. The justice of the peace came looking for the trumpet player. He saw me and was going to detain me for disturbing the peace. My cat and me ran away. We got away. I took the orphan gray cat back to her home where she lived under a house. I was concerned that she would be safe. She purred, I will be. We both knew how to take care of ourselves.
yeah, that's very. Hi, Tim. We just started on a till people were here. We're going to get to Roy's dream, but why don't we just go through it really quick, and everybody will get a chance, and then we'll come back to it. But okay, now first, we're a little orphan boy. So the little orphan boy is the one um, whose parents are missing. You know, so they have a facility of that they're on their own. They are they're at least we don't know anything about the mother and father yet, except that they're absent. You know, but anyway, it is it's an image that I have not seen yet. But let's see what happens. Now he's a boy, but he's in a tavern. So a tavern is a place, it's a middle realm place where people come and gather to drink spirits, you know, but it's sort of this middle realm type spirits. It's not, communion. And actually, people are trying to, it's a Dionysian place. So it's not the Apollonian, it represents the uh, uh, being being part of the luxuriousness of being alive. And this comes up in a second with both the music and the cat. Okay, the doors are open to the street. It's late afternoon, so it's sort of a place that's inside outside type thing. I mean, this is one thing I love about the Caribbean and about South Florida too. Is uh, in the Caribbean, for some reason, they don't have a lot of bugs or insects. I mean, flying insects. So everything's always open. But anyway, it's late afternoon, so the sun is descending. Consciousness is in a descent. There were no customers there. So we're in the tavern. The management's there. There's no customers. It's just us, or just the orphan boy, and they let me practice the trumpet there. And Roy had a gray cat with him. Okay, so this is your cat, right, Gray? Roy.
Yeah, we hung out together.
Yeah, and I think he's had a gray cat before, but again, the cat. Yeah, the cat is a stand-in here for the anima, and it's an instinctive, undifferentiated anima. Okay, one that is not. I mean, some similar to Charles hamsters, which we later found out is related to the star-shaped raccoon baby, who is also in the hamster's cage, and then its mother turns into a beautiful woman. So this is an undifferentiated feminine, our soul, or the bridge to the self, and the fact that she's the mixture of black and white tells us that she's participating in both worlds. Okay. Now, they let me practice a trumpet there. Now, so you brought a trumpet with you, right?
No, I didn't own a trumpet. It was the bar's trumpet.
Okay, it's the bar's trumpet, but you're there playing it. Okay. Well, a trumpet is a horn. It is it's a pneumatic instrument made of metal. And, when Gabriel blows his horn, that is not to announce what it is really to do. When Gabriel blows his horn, he's not trying to awaken the physical dead. He's trying to awaken the dead in us. He's trying to awaken the soul in us. I mean, if you see in some of the alchemical emblems, you know, Gabriel is blowing his horn not to awaken the physical dead, but to awaken that aspect of us that is sleeping, you know. So, but the horn is a herald. It is some type of a beck, you know. Heard about Siegfried's horn. We've heard about, you know, Young blows his horn when he sees the red one coming, you know. So the horn is an aspect of awakening the unconscious. Okay. I mean, that's just a theory, but it in other, you know, contexts, it has something. And the reason is it is very loud. I mean, it is piercing for the size of the instrument. It's very loud, you know, and it has a high decibel level compared with a flute, you know, let's say. Okay, so now someone called the justice of the peace. Okay, so this is the one who does not want anything to be woke up, you know, does not want that sound that awakens things to be sounded. Okay, we're there with the mix, the cat, the anima, the mixture of the of the of the black and white world, and we blow the horn because we're going to be like Young on the watchtower. We're going to. It's a herald for something, you know, and so now there's someone who doesn't want the horn to blow. So I'd almost bet that it's it's either the shadow or some type of trickster figure, and he was going to detain us for or for sounding the awakening instrument. But the gray cat and Roy run away. They get away, and now the gray cat's an orphan too. You're both orphans, so you both are. You know, someone said one time that we really don't become ourselves until both parents are gone. You know, when both parents are gone, that changes us. You know, we're no longer. I mean, you know, we just kind of move into a different role. You know, where the parents are gone. You know, so now we're representing ourselves in the world. We're no longer the son or of any physical being, you know. And I think the orphan too has okay. What's Young's big stone called near Lake Zurich? You know, it's called the Orphan Stone. Okay, and it has to do with it's the stone that the builders rejected, has no parents, no one claims it. So the orphan stone is and he actually has a wonderful line on there. You know, maybe we can Google it too to see what it says on the orphan stone about the orphan. Okay, so we get away, and you took the orphan cat back to her home where she lived under a house. So it's your gray cat, but she actually has a different place. She lives somewhere different from you, or do you even have a house?
Different from me.
Yes.
I don't know where I lived. I just live in the street.
Yeah. Okay.
I might live under a house too, for all I know, but
Yes.
it's a different house.
At least we're not aware. The consciousness is not aware of it. So you were concerned though that she would be safe. Your soul, your instincts. See, she lives under a house. She's part of you. She's the one that participates in both worlds. She's the symbol of the feminine aspect of yourself that has yet to be differentiated, pulled out. You know, it's very similar to the hamster or the raccoon baby. You know, it needs more of a dialogue before it can come forth, you know, in a more human fashion. So it's very instinctive and a very instinctive animal. And you know, remember that anima is nature itself. You know, it is not. You know, Jung says it's not good. It's neutral. You know, and it's very pagan. You know, so then you're concerned about her safety. Well, you're concerned about your own safety. And she purred, what? I will be. Okay, she purred, I will be. I will become. I will become the full-fledged, powerful anima at some point. And we both knew how to take care of ourselves. So there's a heroic aspect here on both sides. This is what the soul and I share, or Roy shares. And so anyway, that's a start to, ooh, wait, Carl's here and Sarah's here. Ooh, sorry. All right, well, why doesn't everybody comment on it? And then we'll finish Carl's dream. And then Tim, I'd like Tim to, we missed Carl's dream last time. And then maybe Tim, you could talk about your little essay on the muse. Why don't we talk about Carl's dream? But let's just hear some comments about Roy's dream, and then we'll come back to it. Charles, do you have any comments about it?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I think the idea of the trumpet being a instrument of awakening is a really good idea. It makes me think of the tarot card. I don't know exactly what card that is, but all the angels are blowing horns to wake people up out of their graves. Mm-hmm. And seeing that it's late afternoon, was it? I'm trying to.
Yeah,
late afternoon.
Descending. The sun,
right? So
the consciousness is fast disappearing.
Right, which I would say points to it being a inner awakening. Mm-hmm. But of course, this kind of like status quo, kind of like collective or authoritarian, even maybe figure won't have that sort of disturbance. Maybe it's like an ego kind of figure, but which is interesting. I mean, I don't think Roy's someone that has much of a personality that's going to like, or maybe part of him protests to like a sort of, you know, I don't know, maybe part of him protests to this little orphan boy wanting to awaken something within. And yeah, I don't know. I guess that's really all I have.
Yeah, well, Roy is not simple. He's got a very mysterious quality, seriously, that is almost dizzying, you know. Even though it's got a lot of shoebill storks, cats, dogs that turn into cats, you know, and other what you would call theoromorphic forms of the of representing the unconscious. What do you think, Gary?
Well, you know, when I see tavern, it kind of makes me think of it's really just the opposite of a church. You know, one's spiritual, one is soulful. And then of course the other thing is that, you know, tavern is like adults only. They don't allow children in there. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's sort of like you have to be almost like sneaking in to begin with. And so being the orphan that's, that's playing the trumpet there, he's sort of snuck into a place that would normally be, very restricted. But I think the other thing that's interesting is the opposition is very powerful. I mean, the justice of the peace can
Mhm.
not only overrule the owners of the tavern, but can chase him out of the the practice that he's performing in order to join with the soul. So that's the main thing I'm seeing. It's a really interesting dream.
Yeah. We need to know why he is a boy here. And the other thing is the tavern, it's not like a bar. The tavern, the original thing of a tavern was it was an inn, that served, spirits, but also served food and also did some lodging for people. It was a place where travelers come. So it's the middle realm of soul. It has that wonderful aspect of the realm of soul. It's like the difference between the mountain and the valley of the Vale of Tears and the outer world. It would be closer to that middle realm where soul resides, not spirit. What do you think, Tim?
One of my thoughts about the tavern is I think about Canterbury Tales, which takes place
Yeah.
in a tavern, and it's not only a community center, but it's kind of the inception of community storytelling. So everybody gets to say who they are in the tavern,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really intrigued with the boy, and particularly an orphan, is, as Charles says, is not welcome there, and so it's
Mm-hmm.
he's like a town crier in a, I guess, in a fresh way, because if an adult was playing the trumpet in a public space, that would be different. And the child shows up. There's this kind of holy child aspect to it
Mm-hmm.
that deserves a little bit more attention.
Yeah.
And in terms of the orphan, I'm wondering, Roy, if there's some part of your history that feels rootless. And the first thing I thought of was your religious upbringing. But then, as Gary says, the tavern is the opposite of a church. And so I wonder if it's another kind of rootlessness that has to do with your story or your body or your place in the world or something like that. Is any of that strike an idea for you?
Yeah, when I was maybe 13, 14, I would my mom would let me off at this pier. This was on the coast in South Carolina in the summer, and I would be out there all day fishing, and then she'd come back and pick me up. And nobody went out on this pier. It was in an inlet way out somewhere, and but you had to pay. You had to walk out to the inn and pay to get where the deep water was. And there was this guy that ran it. He was probably a couple years older than me, maybe 17, 18. His name was Bubba, and he was an orphan. He told me he was an orphan, and he lived out there in that little house, and he made his living from those tickets that he sold. And he was the best fisherman I ever met in my life. I really admired him. And so there's one allusion to an orphan. And I always kind of felt like an orphan. I didn't feel like I related to any of my family. And also I got the feeling of Telesporus, that Jung used to talk about, the Kabiri. He's kind of a dwarf, and so he's kind of childlike and he's an orphan, that came to my mind.
Mhm. Yeah, and he is one who, unlike the residents of the underworld today, he could just as well be found on Mount Olympus at the highest place. He traveled between the three worlds without, and there was one that held the torch up and one that held the torch down. So it illuminates, the Telesphorus illuminates both worlds. And of course, that is who we see on Young's Orphan Stone. And here's what he says about it: I am an orphan alone. Nevertheless, I am found everywhere. I am one, but opposed to myself. I am youth and old man at one and the same time. I have known neither father nor mother, because I have had to be fetched out of the deep like a fish, or fell like a white stone from heaven. In woods and mountains I roam, but I am hidden in the innermost soul of man. I am mortal for everyone, yet I am not touched by the cycles of the aeons. And so that the aspect here, I am youth and old man at the same time. I think that's one of the relevant aspects of that. Sarah, do you have any comments about it?
I didn't hear the whole dream. If I could hear the dream,
yeah.
that would be
Let me
great.
put it in the chat one more time.
I'll read it over and you guys can go through it.
Yeah. Well, let me read it really quickly. Let's see. It is that Roy's a little orphan boy. He's in a tavern, even though he's a boy. The doors are open to the street. It's late afternoon. The sun is descending. There were no customers there, so it's a very lonely place. It isn't evening yet, and they let me practice the trumpet there. I had a gray cat with me. I was practicing trumpet. Then someone called the justice of the peace on my trumpet playing, and the justice of the peace came looking for the trumpet player. He saw me and was going to detain me for disturbing the peace. So I think it's this authority figure wants to stop us from awakening the inner whatever needs to be awakened within. And then the gray cat and Roy run away, the orphans, 2 orphans, and we get away. And you take the orphan gray cat back to her home where she lived under a house. He was initially concerned that she would be safe, and she purred, "I will be." Now, that is an amazing statement. I don't know what it means, but it is very powerful, nevertheless. We both knew how to take care of ourselves. So would you have any things, if it was your dream, what would be your initial reaction?
The little boy in the tavern, that just kind of makes me think of a child who had to grow up a little too soon, because it's a place for a man, not a child. So it just makes me think of a little boy who feels like he has to be a man sooner than he's ready.
Mm-hmm.
And then the trumpet playing and getting called on by the justice of the peace, that would make me think that maybe this little boy says things that maybe people don't appreciate, or truths that maybe people don't want to hear, maybe told to be quiet,
Yeah, well, it's I know we'll Carl, do you have any comments, or Dawn, on it?
I'm wondering, Roy, how were you feeling when you went up to ask if you could play the trumpet there? Well, they said yes, but how was their attitude, and can you describe who you talked to?
Okay, the people in the tavern love me. I show up there every day. They would give me little chores, you know, sweeping the floor and stuff like that, give me some peanuts or whatever. So I was like a regular. They liked me. I felt great
Was this
there.
a real place
Oh,
in
yeah.
your trip from your child? Okay. So it was a real place from your childhood where you were welcome. In the dream, you were welcome as well. And you
Oh,
were just
yeah.
hanging out,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
playing your trumpet,
Yeah.
and then someone called the justice of the peace on you. Well, I'd say it seems like a bit precocious, maybe, the child, and he's just trying to do his thing. He wants to practice his art, you know. And I don't know, you're in a place you enjoy, but someone's trying to get you in trouble for it for some reason, it seems. Do you know anything about the person who called the justice of the peace on
Well,
you about?
you know, to me, that's a symbolic of the authority figures. If you do something a little odd, you know, like I was doing, that'll attract an authority figure.
To me, it's just like, well, you're trying to express who you really are. And, you know, Craig mentioned this, that figure of the self, basically, or I believe that's what that is. You know, that's your soul, like the center of your soul, you know, your real soul. Like, here I am, I'm the thing that goes through all darkness and wants to touch and see and know all, you know, that whatever its desire is, places to go into the darkness, and discover. And someone's killing your vibe, man. You're trying to play that trumpet, and they don't appreciate it. But like, I would feel like you really know, and you have a community that appreciates you. But basically, society's trying to make you conform. That's the vibe I'm getting from this. That's what, you know, what I think. And then the orphan cat, that's interesting. I wonder if the cat is an anima figure, somehow. That's my something like that, just like an auxiliary part of your soul. And it's an orphan, which kind of reminds me of like a precocious child on their own. But in a way, it's like you have a home you can still go back to, and this orphan cat has to live out by their own. I feel like she's kind of like, she's happy that you're trying to do your thing, you know, your anima. So I think it's like an anima thing or something like that. This part of your soul is happy you're trying to do its thing, and it's with you. It's sticking with you, and it's going to be under that house, and you're going to hang out with it again and keep doing your thing. And people and things, maybe it's another part of your personality, either is a little uncomfortable about stepping out or something, but deep down, like, your self knows this is the thing for you to do. That's what I get.
Well, do you have any comments, Roy? I was gonna just kind of sum it up real quick.
No, I think we
Okay.
covered a
Okay.
lot of stuff about it. Sounds good.
Yeah, well, we're going to come back to it, but I would say this: the orphan aspect and the fact that the anima is more instinctive, I think it bespeaks your what moves in you. I mean, I think that you are related very much to the instinctive realms rather than and the fact that the orphan is the one, and I forgot the first part, that this is Telephorus, who roams through the dark regions of this cosmos and glows like a star out of the depths. He points the way to the gates of the sun and to the land of dreams. That's pretty cool. I mean, you know, so I think that the aspect of the orphan represents very close to a Merlin-like figure, you know, Le Cri de Merlin. You know, I mean, this one who goes up and down the mountains of the world with the lion roar of illumination, who is careless and fearful of nothing. you know. Now, that describes God is a description of an Eastern kind of a mendicant, you know, who is sort of like a lot like Wotan, you know, or the wandering Jew, you know, the one who's homeless and yet knows how to take care of himself and doesn't want anyone else to take care of himself. And his relation to the feminine world is very instinctive because he is a creature who does not live in houses. He might live under houses. Well, go ahead, Carl. Oh, are you saying anything? Oh yeah, Carl is
Hi.
gonna.
You there?
Yeah,
I
you
was
put
thinking,
something up to share.
I was clapping my hands. I was saying right on.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, let me see if you can. You accidentally shared something, but
Oh, really?
yeah, just unshare it.
It's
Well,
a video. Don't open it.
yes. Well, what do you think of that, Roy? I mean, we're going to go into more depth, and I think we'll have a lot more to say about this.
Oh yeah, I like all that. It sounds right on.
Okay. Okay. Great. Well, let's. I would like to finish Carl's dream. If is it Pauline? I keep forgetting her name. Let's see. I don't know why I don't remember her name.
Yeah,
Patricia.
Carl, I think you should still have your screen share
Yeah.
on.
Oh,
Yeah. There. Just go where you say
Ah.
show share screen and unshare it or something. Maybe if I turn off sharing for a second, and then let's see.
being weird today too.
Yeah. I'm going to turn this off for a second. Let's see.
In the other thing.
Okay, yes. Okay, I'm just turning it off for a second there. Did that fix it or not? Nope, didn't fix it. Okay, well, see if you can do it. I mean, if you can't, that's
Yeah.
fine. But I think all you need to do is there's a little green button at the bottom. It says share screen, and it should be probably.
Oh,
There you
okay.
go. Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm in black and white mode, so I couldn't see the green.
Okay, no problem. Okay, well, why don't we do
Sorry.
Carl's dream real quick, and then Tim, if you've, I don't know if you've written down your dream, but it'd be kind of nice to have the text of it, and then go over it again, and then for you to sort of just expand on your relationship with the feminine, and the fact that she tends to be the muse in your in your interactions with her. But why don't we first finish Carl's dream, because I forgot it last time. I'm so sorry. I started it. Okay, well, anyway, I'm going to go through the dream really quickly here too, as I'm just sort of giving some comments on it. It starts out that Carl is in the neighborhood. He grew up at his neighbor's house. He's in his neighbor's house. He's in the older brother's room, but they're with a younger brother who's actually deceased. But we never see the older brother. We only see the deceased brother. And we sometimes think we hear him, but we don't see him there. The younger brother leaves the room, and then a ghost is annoying him. And then downstairs, we see the mother. She's very intimidating because she's very serious, she's tall, and she's blonde and younger. So she's very numinous and someone who cannot be trifled with. She speaks to me, but I don't recall what she said. But the feeling was that it was very important. It was important anyway. And outside, we see that this house, this single brown house, now has two other houses added to the property. Lots of gravel and stone have been brought in to elevate them, as that area is actually a downward sloping hill. Each building has a covered deck leading to an outside covered deck room, and they all remind me of a Japanese temple. and back closer to my parents' yard, but not in the parents' yard, we see Lenin, who's, you know, the original, he was the person who, the revolutionary who turned, he deposed, I don't think he actually deposed the Tsar. The Tsar was deposed by Kerensky, who was one of the whites. And then after the Tsar was deposed, then Lenin he was in prison in Germany, and the prison and the Germans let him go, commissioned a train for him, and shipped him into Russia to stir up trouble there, to relieve pressure on the Eastern Front, basically, so that they could then withdraw their troops from the Eastern Front and move them to the Western Front, so that they could win the Great War, as it was called then. But anyway, he's saying he's very cold, which is sort of strange because even though it seems to be winter, it's not very cold out, and he's dressed very warmly. And he wants to talk with me in the car or somewhere inside, but I don't trust him. And I suggest I build a fire to keep him warm. Okay. Well, anyway, let me go through this real quick. I'm in the neighborhood I grew up in at a neighbor's house. So we're at the place of the beginning, you know, where that's the point of departure. But the point of departure is only nearby our own birthplace. It's just nearby. So, and it's a strange house. It's not the home of the ego. So we're in sort of the place of childhood, but not the home of the ego, a strange house. And so now we're in there's two brothers there, and and we're in the older brother's room, but he's missing. You know, we sometimes think we hear his voice, but we never see him. But we're there with the younger brother who's actually deceased, and so we are with someone from the realm of the ancestors, someone who resides in the realm of images. So this anyone who has went to the other side, you know, is a consciousness that resides in the realm of images, which is where we're all going to go, and is also the dream maker. You know, that's what Jung said: when we die, we're going to enter a realm of images. And you know, I really think about this when I think about the dreams of bears, because they speak in images. So this same voice that speaks to the bears, that speaks to us, it's its only language. You know, it has a much more rich tapestry to work with a person than it does with a bear, but it still speaks in images, and it speaks in setting, characters in setting, atmosphere, a crisis, a situation that then possibly reaches a crisis, and then resolution. That's how the dream maker speaks. And it speaks to bears the same way. It's the realm of images anyway. And that's where I think why Jung would say that. So this younger brother resides in the realm of images. And this house that is at the point of departure, that is in the realm of images. It's not in the outer world. And the living beings like the older brother aren't visible here. They might be heard, but they're never seen. And then that's proven because the younger brother leaves the room, and then a ghost of some sort. So it still is this residents of the realm of images, ones who are not living beings in the outer world. And the known resident, the one we know, leaves, and now it left another unknown consciousness who annoys the ego. So the ego is annoyed here. So there's an aspect of this is that's not necessarily edifying. It's either it's sort of a nuisance, which the dreams often are. I mean, they often don't seem very edifying. I mean, there's a aspect of them where they don't instruct. And now downstairs we see the mother, and she's intimidating. She's serious, taller and blonde, younger than she is in real life. She speaks to me. We don't remember what she said, but we know it's important. So the maternal feminine also resides in the realm of images, and at the point of departure. But she still has image aspects because she's more numinous, and she possesses more energy evoking energy than any human mother would. When she speaks, it's like the oracle at Delphi speaking. I mean, whatever she says is very important, and ego's in awe of her, and so her words almost seem like they're very close to the supreme meaning, or the some type of a wisdom that's not of the other world. I think that would be the main thing, is that she speaks with the voice of the informing wisdom of nature, or the voice of the dream maker. And then outside, now this is very interesting. We see the single brown house. Now, the fact that it's brown, I think, has to do with the fact that it's earth colored.
Deep brown.
Pardon me?
Yeah, deep. It's there. It's deep brown, deep dark.
Yeah, it's the color of the earth. So it's the color of the chthonic realm of the earth realm, but it is now it has a very interesting aspect, which I have had several dreams like this, and I think we all have. It has added rooms to it, so it added them very interestingly. It has a aspect that the lower realms were elevated, and the new rooms are put on the from elevating the depths. Now more this house of the realm of images has expanded, and not only is it expanded into two, so now there's three aspects, but it has even a surrounding deck that is the surrounding deck is still growing. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, yeah.
I don't know if it makes any difference, but the decks face away from the road towards into the woods.
Yes.
Canopy
So they face the
overhead.
unconscious. Yeah.
And that is also the east at that. Basically, yeah, the east at that.
Okay. Morning. It's sort of a morning wisdom. I just want to show.
The new houses are to the south of the original house.
Mm-hmm. I just wanted to show that this house will be larger. It needs to be expanded. So this house that the area of awareness will add on to itself, expand, and push out through dialogues with inner partners, making living the images of this realm. By expanding and amplifying the images, the house is expanded. Every room in the house had a deck on it now. It didn't have a deck on it before, and now it does. And so this is somewhat like your dream. This was an interesting dream I had, that there was an emergency on the other side that needed to be addressed. in the inner world, but I have this appalling lack of concern. There's an emergency in the beyond that requires your attention. And it's the beautiful Anima mother with the crippled child. And so, you know, she's her child is has an aspect of him that he is not the growing part of me is has a aspect of it that's crippled. But anyway, I mean that's got a little bit to say about this dream, you know.
That was
But
great, Greg.
yeah,
That's opening it up for me a lot. Thank you.
yeah. Well, okay. So the house now again, it lots of gravel and stone have been brought in to elevate these things. So the downward sloping hill is now has been built up so that the new realms we've elevated the depths, and through elevating the depths, we're able to expand ego, the place where ego resides. Okay. And so, you know, the house is brown, earth colored. It's related to the rooted earth, which is also indicated by the shining mother, the golden mother of supreme meaning, who's more beautiful than normal mothers. And so this, the house of the realm of images, where there's all these consciousness, aspects of consciousness from the other side, are becoming accessible to ego, and as they become accessible to ego, the house expands. And now, even they have the character of a Japanese temple. Okay, now a Japanese temple is they are always nature focused.
Yes.
What's interesting about the Japanese temple is there might be a Buddha in them, but you know, one of the interesting things about the Buddhas of Japan is their eyes are always open. The Buddha's eyes are open in Japan, and in Ceylon or where you'd see other Buddhas, they're always closed. So they're in meditation. This one is meditating with his eyes open. Now, Shinto, you know, is one of this beautiful religion that has to do very much with what the Lakota religion would be. You know, it's a religion of the rocks and the rivers and the trees and the forests and all the places in our the place we reside have become sacred. You know, this is what you know, Black Elk told John Neihart, you know, that the central mountain of the world, and Joseph Campbell always says, you might be surprised to hear, is Harney Peak in South Dakota. You know, that's the central mountain of the world. And but then Black Elk sort of says under his breath, but the central mountain is everywhere. You know?
Yeah.
It's not, you know, it is a sphere whose circumference is nowhere and whose center is everywhere, you know. So anyway, the fact that it's a Japanese temple, very interesting. Now, you know, if you had just said an Oriental temple, I don't know, you know, if it was the Taoist temple in China, that's again very Shinto-like, you know. And Zen is, you know, Bodhidharma brought Buddhism into China. And Sanskrit was so unfamiliar to the Chinese that they would get, the only way they could translate the Buddhist scriptures into Chinese was in the terms of Taoism. and then the Japanese took it over to Japan, and it sort of combined with Shinto. So Zen is a very Taoist Buddhism, and it's two generations removed from the Buddhism of India, which is really gone. I mean, India was the birthplace of Buddhism, but there's not much Buddhism there. And it's very much like Hinduism and Judaism are both religions that you are born into by blood, and they have to do with the phallus, circumcision. There's an aspect of it that has that aspect. So we are Hindu, we are Jews, and we'll never not be, So as Christianity became the religion of the Gentiles, Buddhism became kind of the religion of the Shudra, and the outcasts. And then since the Brahmins never embraced it, it went east into other places, Thailand and Burma, and where they didn't have this very rigid caste system. Anyway, so now we're back closer to our parents' yard, but then we see Lenin, you're calling him Marx.
And I think he actually might have been on the old swing set that my father and I built when I was really little, like 6 or 8. I think he was there and he came over towards me.
Yeah, as we leave the realm of images and its new houses that have been elevated up out of the depths with its expanding deck around it, and we come closer to ego consciousness, we're wandering over towards the ego consciousness, suddenly we see Lenin,
Yeah.
Now, Lenin is really, do you know what your function is, or what your Myers-Briggs type is?
INFP.
INFP.
Well, I've always tested INFP. I think way back I tested INFJ one time.
INFP sounds a lot better.
Yeah. My dad's an
Good.
INFJ. He's like a classic INFJ, and I'm an INFP, and my sister's an INFP too.
Yeah. Okay. So that means that your extroverted function is intuition, and your dominant function is feeling. Okay. So what's your inferior function?
Thinking.
Lenin.
Yeah.
It's this thinking function that is disconnected from the self. At least it has in a feeling person, his thinking is very unconscious and very uncouth, and Lenin would somewhat represent that. It's this dogmatic aspect. So feeling function people tend to be somewhat dogmatic and rigid in their thinking function, because it's unconscious, So Lenin would somewhat represent the rigidity and the dogmatic opinions that a feeling function person holds, because they have difficulty thinking. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't be geniuses. I mean, a genius of the feeling function and a genius of the intuitive function. And then there's, somebody that's a genius of the sensation function, that is an engineer, or something. I mean, so thinking is very overrated in particularly in the United States of America, I think. With the IQ and all that kind of stuff. And that's how we measure people. What's your thinking function? Oh, it doesn't look that high. I think you got problems. You can't think spatially, or whatever. But anyway, so this, he's, this representative, he seems to be he's more related to the ego, but he's disconnected from the depths, because he's not really differentiated. I mean, he's a little bit, needs to be differentiated before he'd be related to the depths. So he's a very primitive form of thinking, which I think could be represented by a rigid dogmatist. One who denies the self, and thinks that thinking is the only God.
Yep.
So he says he's very cold, which you find funny is because it seems like winter's not very cold. The winter's not very cold, and he's dressed warmly. So this isolated, non-rooted thinking function is unreasonably complaining of no warmth, no human warmth, and as an isolated function that's not differentiated, that's cut off from its roots. It's cut off from the warmth of the body and from the blood. It's a bloodless being. And, because it really is not real, we don't really know what thinking is. So this thinking we think is thinking is bloodless, and of course, thinking always is kind of bloodless, even for a thinking function person. He's very, he doesn't have a very good feeling function. And, Lenin's corpse was mummified by draining all of its blood and replacing it with formaldehyde. I don't know if you've ever seen Lenin's
I think I've heard. Yeah, I think they get them on display still, or they did.
No, I think Boris Yeltsin, I think, they buried him, or I don't know what they did, but he's not on display anymore. Maybe he is.
Deify him.
Yeah. But anyway, they got down to where all they had were his hands and his head, because the rest of it was getting a little bit not good. But anyway, now he wants to accompany ego into its realm. He wants to either go inside with us or into its vehicle, but to share its warmth. But the ego knows that this figure, this dogmatic figure, is poisonous, and instead it builds a fire of the unconscious there, so that it's not going to infect the ego. Okay, well, anyway, I probably butchered that one a little bit. What do you think, Roy?
Oh yeah, that's good. I was wondering what Carl thinks about Lenin, how he relates Lenin in the dream, to what his thoughts on that are.
It's somebody I definitely wouldn't trust, and I would have some measure of respect for somebody like Lenin, just because he had force, and I mean, anyone who's determined, I have at least some amount of I don't know, respect really isn't the right word, but I am definitely not into anything that Soviet Russia was, the Soviet Union. I feel like he's a cold, cut off from. I'm a feeling person. I'm an intuitive person. That's my natural way of being. When I've tried not to be and just go by thinking, I just get like sucker punched. So,
he might even be the shadow, because he's just the opposite of the feeling function person.
Yeah. He's just, he's the sort of guy who would kill you, for his stupid cause, that, he thinks, there's some people that are really are very smart in certain ways but total idiots. Like they're totally missing the point of everything, or they're just arrogant in their intelligence. And like, how much does even the smartest person really know? Like, we don't know hardly anything about what reality really is.
Very unfeeling, and that's part of his coldness, probably.
Yeah.
But
everything Craig was saying, that it made it just felt right to me. It was resonating. He's on the trail for sure, and I liked it a lot.
Well, what else Roy, you just want to know what he thought about Lenin.
I don't know if he answered my question. I kind of meant, why do you think he was in the dream?
Why?
Not what you think about him personally outside the
Oh,
dream, but
okay.
why the hell was Lenin popping up in your dream?
Hmm.
Very
I
interesting.
feel like this is a
Very-
I think this
Yeah.
is a dogmatic figure trying to get me to go along with what they feel is right when I really know they don't know what the hell they're talking about. So it could be somebody who's dogmatically, I mean, I could think of people in my life. Oftentimes figures like this are kind of like, to me, they're intimidating. Like this would maybe be like at school. I was not into school like at all. I just like I was too energetic. You know, I'm a kid. I'm like a kid of the woods. Like I'm more happy. I'm most comfortable by myself, like with my feet in a stream, like in the ferns around and like dark, like canopy overhead. Like catching like turtles or looking at or trout or like just hearing the birds singing in the wind. If I could, I'd like grow fur and probably live in a hole like in the side of a hill. So,
You know what? It should have been Henry Thoreau then. Why Lenin? You're talking Henry Thoreau. That's not
yeah,
Lenin.
well,
Why
Lenin's somebody like who would want to like tame me and like get me to work in his like march along to a stupid regime. Like I'm not about that. So I feel like he's a figure.
So are you like
to,
relating that to something to do with your childhood home where it was on the border going in that direction?
I think it's probably like, these are old habits and old fears. And I mean, there's some of that, like people, like someone like an authority figure trying to like keep a hold on me, like a negative animus, like part of my masculinity, like where I'm looking toward, I'm seeing maybe something from that part of how I viewed my masculinity as being important is maybe it's not so important for me really. Maybe it's that's just not my way. I have a different way and I don't have to try to be that. I appreciate people who are intellectual and I have a lot of intellectual interests. I love to learn new things. I'm always watching like the Lex Friedman podcast and he has physicists on and people from Johns Hopkins Research Institute and like Stuart Hameroff and what's the British mathematician who does all like the non-repeating tiles, like say geometric stuff and
Escher.
yeah, just I'm fascinated and I'm fascinated with like obviously psychology and basically transcendent experiences and where the unconscious and what's really going on in these like just mysteries. Like I like mysteries and learning and new things and I'm so into the mystery of being alive and maybe where did I come from before, my soul, and where's it going to go to, this realm of images, what's that going to be like? I'm hearing Craig and everyone talk and I'm thinking about, wow, this is kind of like boot camp for the realm of images when I die. When I think about dying, that's kind of exciting for me, like the next world. Like I don't want to die, but like it's something, maybe I'm just dead, I'm gone, but like all the experiences I've had, I feel like there's somewhere I'm going beyond this. And I don't know what it'll be like exactly, but this realm of images is fascinating to me. And I think that is right on, because I seem to get things from there all the time. And I mean, sometimes I wonder if I'm already partially in the realm of images or something is, because sometimes I know things ahead of time that I just shouldn't know, so.
Roy, do you think it is, the two clues I have is that it is closer to the ego realm and it is that which we detest. That is
Yeah, I get your point of view and your angle, Craig. I was trying to get something from Carl, but I might be too stupid. I give up. But one thing that I did notice was the younger brother was a ghost.
Yes.
And the brother that's alive wasn't there, but the ghost was there. And Lennon has to be a ghost.
Yeah, he's
And
dead.
he was there. He was there
Yes.
just like the younger brother. I mean, it's sort of a coincidence, but and that's about all I got to say.
Yeah, well, that is something I noticed too. Lennon is dead, bloodless shadow. But again, these are all figures. We can call them ghosts, but they really reside in the other world. So we're kind of on an other world journey. What do you think, Charles?
You know, I don't know. That was a lot. And to be honest, not having the dream written down, it was a little bit hard to I try to imagine it very visually when I read it, so I can try to experience the dream for myself as much as I can. But I mean, Craig, I think he broke it down pretty thoroughly. And but I guess one thing I would say was like, what Lennon kind of represents to me is obviously like ideological and manipulative.
Yes.
Also, what am I trying to say? Like collective. And I mean, the thing is, we all have those things in our personality, and I think with the way Carl explained himself, then the Lennon would be like a shadow figure, and I think it's a very just the fact that you end up like making a fire for him. And I think Craig was right on when he was saying that there's Lennon, he wanted the warmth of ego consciousness. I would say like try to think of how you could take like Lennon's approach to things and symbolically use them for something that's positive as opposed to like a negative ideological thing. Like think of something that you could actually try to get everyone behind, and like think of like a symbolic revolution for something that's good.
Yeah.
And try to just experience it just in your personality and your consciousness, just to open up that part of yourself that has not received the warmth of ego consciousness.
I like that.
And the
I hate-
feeling function builds a fire, which is interesting. Go ahead.
Thanks, Charles.
How about you, Gary?
Thanks, Roy, too.
Yeah, I like what Charles just said, and I think the only thing I was going to add is that, you've got several ghosts, you've got a power figure in the mother. It's not clear whether she's like a great mother or a terrible mother or what, but she is threatening, and you have this expanded psyche, and and you're bringing the fire to kind of the image of Lenin. So to me, it's it's shadow figures and just increasing consciousness of things that need to be integrated. And the increasing awareness has brought these figures out. So that's all I'm seeing.
It has a lot of rich aspects that need to be pulled together. What do you think, Tim?
Well, I'm a little bit confused about the brothers. Carl, do you have any real brothers?
I have an older half brother. Yeah. Yeah.
These aren't his brothers, though. They're the neighbors. They're neighbors. They're not his brothers. But I don't know. I made that assumption initially, and he told me they're not his brothers.
Well, I'm just wondering about the image of the of brothers. And I wonder if there's some aspect of a community of men in your life
Hmm.
that has a parallel here.
I think there is. I mean, specifically in my conscious waking life, it would be the church. And I think, you know, I do want some sort of a collective experience, and like to have a relation with somebody who's a thinking person, but without it being dogmatic and just a rigid collective that's out of touch with feeling, you know, or has a very narrow, well, you can have some feeling, but only under these, you know, this dogma, that sort of thing.
Well, that brightens it up a little for me, because it seems like I always have a little bit difficulty with male figures, because the only kind of male figure that I can identify in myself is the shadow. And but it does illuminate it for me to think about, like, if the church is important to you, what do those symbols point toward? Like, is there a dogmatic element?
Oh yeah.
A
Yes, definitely. You know, that's and that's always my issue with the church in general, the traditional church. I mean, Baptist churches tend to be pretty dogmatic, very kind of, they remind me of like 1950s, 1960s Eastern North America, you know.
Right.
Very not in touch with the feminine at all. You know, have a whole sermon about, you know, Mary's nice, but she, you know, like, we're going on about how the Catholics had her ascend to heaven, like, but it doesn't say anywhere in the Bible that says that. Okay, I don't really care. It's not an issue for me. Like, why are you telling me this? Obviously you're insecure about it. You know, and I was just saying the other day, like, I have enough masculinity in myself to keep myself, like, when I pray, like, and I'm just praying to like a father figure, and like, it's not as real for me. Like, I feel like somebody who's looking for a positive father figure in their life, especially a woman. I for some reason, I have an intuition that, like, okay, so if, for instance, if you have a positive father figure, an absent father figure, like, the image of a positive father who cares for you is very comforting. But I'm kind of like Roy in that, like, I was never close to my father, and I wasn't really close to the boys my age either. You know, as a kid, I was pretty, like, very proud of my, like, independence and just who I was, and I could be like instigated into fist fights, you know. And I'd rather just hang out in the woods, and like, the woods are feminine, you know, really. It's just like a magical feminine place any time of the year, especially when it's green, you know. And I've always, you know, so I would love to. I've had these Japanese sort of themed places in my dreams before, and I think I'm really more of like a Shinto sort of soul, you know, Buddhist Shinto sort of Zen soul. I did archery for a while, and I just loved archery. Like, just shooting, standing in one place, 20 yards from a target straight in front of me, shooting again and again, just like, just going, like, getting, like, no thoughts, all gone, and just like bullseyes, and like, just like being quiet and not like cluttered by thought is just more my jam. So
Yeah,
dogma.
the ghost who is present seems like some aspect of religion that has been lost. I mean, just talking about it in terms of the church, right now. That makes me think of things like St. Francis. You know, where is that aspect of the church that brings the awareness of the beauty of nature into our everyday lives, like the Japanese do with gardening and with putting up with bonsai and, you know, the beautiful things they do with nature. That was a tradition that was part of our Western world, but now that's a ghost. That's gone. So I just, you know, that's the kind of thing I think of.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Well, what do you have any comments, Sarah?
Yeah, I really like what you guys are saying. How you guys come up with this stuff is like, oh, so crazy. So what I'm really drawn to still that I feel we haven't really gone over enough is the three houses and the three temples and the three ghosts.
Yeah.
There's why is there three of all of these? And then I think of kind of like past, present, future. I thought of The Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens and how he's visited by three ghosts.
Wow.
That kind of came to my mind, and I thought that was kind of cool. And the past, present, and future. In that book, it was the past, present, and future. And then I think of the triangle, the three corners of the triangle that represent birth, life, and death. So almost like a completion of a cycle, maybe. Like that's what I keep getting drawn to, that, and the three
Threes of becoming.
spirits. And maybe you can help me with that, Craig, because you're good with symbols and stuff. And what does it mean? What does three mean?
3 is a masculine number, and 4 is a feminine number, and it does represent the triangle, you know, and it has to do with the time-centered world. I mean, what it's missing is rootedness. And, you know, I don't see much feminine in this dream either, other than if you could say the house is or the mother are maternal, but everything else is very masculine in it. And so the 3 kind of represents, especially in the Trinity, is perfection, but not related to the body, to our temple of our body. It is totally logos. There's no and where the feminine is always a 4, so she's always includes rootedness in her number. So I would say there's an aspect here of a sort of a little bit of, I don't see a lot of rootedness, and plus the fact that it's in the ghosts keep being mentioned, so we're somewhat far from the body, you know, when you have ghosts, especially cold ones, you know. I mean, it's really saying that what's lacking in the dream is it's the 3, so it's lacking rooted trees and the feminine. The feminine would be a 4. Now you could say we're a 4, but you know, 4 males, that doesn't really count. Now if you say there's there's 2 ghosts and a mother, and then there'd be a 4. But yeah, I would say, to me, if 3 keeps being emphasized, that is something that's rather rootless, yet can be an illumination, but not one that's related to our living being. It's more abstract.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I wish you could know what the mother was trying to tell you, because it seems so important. I wish that you could somehow understand what she was trying to tell you. And maybe you can try to visit her and go back to her in some sort of visual imagination or some
Yeah.
sort of meditation and ask her what she was trying to tell you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do an active imagination. I'll have to try that again.
Kind of
Not very
reminds
good
me
yet.
of kind of reminds me of Charles Anima, who just who 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 what she really has to communicate to him is that she just wants to listen to him. She doesn't, words are okay. Let's. What was one of the famous statements by Saint Francis of Assisi? Spread the gospel everywhere. If necessary, use words. So I mean, there's this aspect of um, of the real wisdom is beyond words, and it's really related to the inexhaustible joy of life invincible. And does that really need to be put into words? What are words? I mean, the mother would represent the referent behind words, the experience behind words, where the father represents words, words, words. And sometimes he separates his words from the experience. When the words are to be came out of the experience, and then he thinks the words are logos, that the universe. Oh, here's a really interesting thing I heard about the words and logos. Okay, a little boy said that when they asked him about creation, well, it was when words came into being, because how can you make anything if you don't have words? Can you imagine creation without anything being named? Or, I mean, imagine millions and hundreds of millions of years. There's all this rich life, and there's no words for it, no names for it. They just live. So what does the mother have to say? She's life. She's the life bearer too. So anyway, I'm getting a little bit off. Did we lose somebody? We've got Charles and Tim. Well, Patricia, as soon as I would like to spend a few minutes with Tim, just talking about his essay, and then I can quickly go through your dream and just summarize it a little bit. But Tim, why don't you just take over here?
Sure.
And just
And
kind of talk about
earlier,
your
Patricia said she doesn't have a mic, so I don't know if we're going to be able to hear.
Oh,
from her.
okay. Well, that's
She's been-
okay. Well, yeah,
She's
but
been in
I
the
will.
chat.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
So-
you go ahead, Tim, and then at the end, I'm going to just go over her dream really quickly, even if it's a little past time.
Well, I was really impressed with this chart that that Newman had in the Great Mother of the. Can I share my screen? Of the elements of the anima.
The muse is there too. She's part of the transformative feminine, up in the upper right
Yeah.
corner.
So
Yeah.
here it is. This is the thing
Yeah.
that I found really fascinating, because I've heard about kind of the four elements of the anima,
Mhm.
and this just is so detailed, and I love the way that he puts in these other figures, Mary and Sophia and Lilith and Circe,
Mhm.
and it got me to thinking, man, I really need to spend some time with this idea and the kind of the four directions of feminine illumination. And I'm kind of thinking about putting a third dimension into this, having to do with how compelling the image is. So in the very center, it feels to me like it's very visceral, very ancient. very, very simple. And then as you go out, it becomes more spiritual and more subtle. And then there's another dimension that I feel that has to do with how compelling an image is. Like the dream I shared a couple weeks ago of the old woman grabbing me by the collar and throwing me against the wall. You know, that's really compelling, rather than seeing somebody from a distance. You know, some figure off in the distance that isn't very immediate. Anyway, I even came up with a kind of a homework assignment for myself to take some of my own images of women, of which I've done, you know, hundreds and hundreds over the last several years, and try to place them on this map, on this diagram, by creating some kind of a code, so I can kind of put a little pin in where I think each artwork goes.
Where you've been
Yeah.
on the map.
Yeah. So anyway, it's really interesting to me. And I think some of you know that I've had this incredible life-changing experience about 25 years ago, when I met a person in the outer world who was my muse. And it just shook me to the foundations. And I was able to make a ton of images of what I was going through. And fortunately, I realized at the time, this is not a real human being I'm being confronted with. It's a carrier who is bringing into my life the muse in a really dramatic fashion. And so fortunately, I was able to go into the relationship with this awareness, knowing that the person standing in front of me was just being a screen. And although I could kind of have a relationship with the woman, mostly what was going on with me is I was having this really incredible internal journey. And I've been on that journey ever since. And meanwhile, I moved into a house and into a studio that was built in the 19th century as a home for wayward women. And there are still some ghosts in this place. And so all these years I've worked here, these women have been coming out in the art. And who knows where they come from. But so I live in this world that is just infused with the feminine spirit, and it's in many, many different forms. So I've been so fascinated with all of the aspects of how the feminine crystallizes into our reality. And as I've mentioned before, you know, the patriarchy, and in particular the capitalist world, is so unfriendly to anything feminine. So it is I feel like it's part of my job to bring the feminine out of the unconscious, and to provide these images that help us to come to terms with these different aspects of what we're seeing in the diagram.
And notice too, Hecate, Gorgon, and Kali.
Right.
And if we ever go, and I think we should do this in our class, is just go through this diagram and what Eric Norman has to say about it, because each one of these circles are thresholds that we need to cross. You know, does anybody have any comments or questions of Tim about this? And because I'd like to hear more about it, but I just wonder if anybody has any questions or thing, and like Gary or Roy or Charles or Sarah
You know, I just think it'd make a really interesting presentation sometime to go over, like, you know, some of your artwork and then map it to the, you know, the various circles, and, you know,
beautiful. I mean,
maybe
that
what was
idea of
going
putting
on
pins.
when that came out, you know?
Yeah, that'd be a fascinating project for
Is it-
me. why don't I
Is
do
it
that for the
balanced
next
or imbalanced? Or
couple of
where
weeks?
is
And
the preponderance of pins?
Yeah.
In which axis? Axis.
I have a question as it relates to the dream in what we're saying right now.
Mhm.
The woman who kicked you out, where would she be on this figure of the feminine? Which goddess is best represents her?
Mhm.
it's more toward the bottom. Let me find that image again. Darn it.
A Circe or a Lilith?
It
Yeah,
could
more
almost
like
be Artemis too. I mean,
right.
or Diana. I mean, she's one that does not suffer fools gladly.
No.
You know.
Right. So I've
Ecstasy. No. So holding fast, fixating.
I've
Diminution. She seemed almost like a diminution aspect to her. You know, you're not worth. You can't be here. You're not good enough for being in here.
right. It's a little bit like the
Like-
old witch.
Yeah.
Yes.
In my I'm doing a diagram here, and I put Artemis right down in here,
Mhm.
and the siren, the Greek sirens, right about in here, and Salome maybe in here.
Mhm. That's
Um,
good.
And so that old woman that kicked me out is right in that area somewhere.
Oh, between. Okay.
Yeah. And I mentioned briefly another dream that I didn't go into detail, but involved these two crazy women in a river that were hiding from their husbands. And I want to spend a little time with that too. And that's over here somewhere, over by madness and ecstasy.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is really, really fascinating to me. And I really think it has not only the reason it comes up for me is because I'm a what Jung called an anima man
Mhm.
who's been haunted by women my whole life, but also I feel like I'm an antenna for the culture. And if you think about like the reason we see in advertising, 90% of the images you see are these young, beautiful women who are often angry and sort of seductive at the same time. And some of them are sick, you know, in the last, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, there was this whole movement of models that look like opium addicts or something, heroin addicts, you know, with gaunt figures and drained faces and that kind of thing. And all of these are images that I think come into advertising because this is the shadow of the culture trying to be recognized. And so there's a part of this whole business that to me feels like it's really relevant for our time, and we need to understand this more as a culture.
Very powerful. You know, I might, if not this next time, but the time after this, maybe we could just go over this diagram in the class, because Newman's description of it really tells you that this what each thing means. You know, just before we leave, I want to go through Patricia's dream real quick, and then Patricia, we can discuss it in more depth next time. But I just wanted to go, and you know, Carl, your dream too, I need to pull it together. I got it kind of the segregated, but I need to pull it together. But this Patricia's dream is in her dream, she was in a little boat, and then that was just by herself. So the ego in this what she described as this very powerful, awesome, awe-inspiring ocean, unconscious. She just has her tiny craft. She's all by herself. But then suddenly she's in a way bigger boat, and she is with the daughter or the growing aspect. So it's almost like now she's with personality number 2 is accompanying her, you know. And so now she looks back on her boat that just had personality number 1, and it looks like a toy. And so we're confronting the vastness and the power of the unconscious. The container of the ego greatly expands as we're acquainted with it, as we are acquaint ourselves with this ocean, our vessel greatly expands. You know, because we just by acquainting ourselves, and we find that at the end where her feet are in the ocean, her vessel expands. The growing thing is there. This is the living aspect of relating to the depths accompanying us, rather than just the outer world ego. And then your daughter's the growing thing, the what came into being by relating ourselves to the unconscious. We now have this other aspect of us, which came out of us and wasn't us now, but it's related very closely to us, and it's the growing thing. And she says your boat is floating away, and the ego knows it didn't lose anything. It actually gained. It has everything it had in that boat on this boat, so it's all contained, but it's in the expanded level. Then there's two monks. The guiding male principle are guiding the boat. The toy boat goes in the direction of consciousness. The boat with the daughter and or the growing thing and the ego, and it has two male animus there, which are kind of the consorts of each half of us. The one that came into being because of our relationship with the unconscious, and our ego have two guiding animus. So that makes a quaternity. You know, they're going in the direction of the unknown and the unconscious. Meanwhile, there is also another boat, and it's the two quartets of women, and the four on the right side probably are related to the ego, and the four on the left side are the wholeness of the growing thing, and they are going like the gray cat down the middle. Okay, so they're representing the union of the inner and the outer worlds, but highly feminine, you know, and that might have something to do with Patricia, and we'll need to hear about that when her mic works. And then the only other aspect was there that her standpoint, her feet are touching the water. So now we haven't seen any land, but what she's saying, even though she's contained in the vessel, her feet long to be in the depths. So her standpoint is moving to the depths. And I think that's what brought the daughter into being, that what's brought and definitely through this relationship with this awe-inspiring unconscious, we develop two fours, you know, of wholeness, and they're going down the middle. But there's one that tends towards the right side, one that tends towards the left. The ego goes right. The animus and our two aspects goes left, you know. So anyway, there's a lot of questions about what's missing in the dream, the land thing. Does anybody have any comments? And then we'll just, Roy, do you have any comments or?
No, it is interesting about not the land thing, but you know, when a lot of people have a lot of air and water in a dream, that's a big concern. But I don't get it in this dream.
No.
She doesn't need the land. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. How about you, Charles?
No comments at the moment.
Okay. How about you, Gary?
No.
Okay.
I've
All right.
been
Yeah.
exchanging a couple of emails with Patricia about this, and
Yeah.
she and I are both doing drawings about it. So
Okay.
hopefully next time she'll have
Yeah,
hers
your
done.
mic works, and we'll discuss it, and we'll discuss Carl's dream. And I'd also, I'm going to at least come with a little bit of better explanation of the diagram, and then maybe Tim, you can show us a few paintings that represent different aspects of it. Carl or Sarah, do you have any comments?
I
How
think.
about you, Sarah?
Nothing to add.
I don't really have anything to add at this
Okay.
time.
Well, we'll have more to add next time. Hopefully, Patricia, you can get your mic fixed and we can ask you some questions about it. But anyway, thank you so much, Carl and Roy. We're gonna finish Roy's dream. I want to bring Carl's dream together, and then Tim, maybe you can bring some paintings, and then I think either Gary or Sarah or Dawn Dawn, yeah, if you Gary, Sarah, Dawn, I think would probably be up. So anyway, thanks everybody. Sorry we ran a little over.
All right.
Okay, bye-bye
Happy New
everybody.
Year.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay,
Here, everyone.
bye.